Hey, welcome back to Writer A's. We're looking at a study called Once Alienated, Now Reconciled. We're in Colossians 1, 21 through 23. This is one sentence. And last time we talked about the idea that we have, in our present reality, we are reconciled to God, and we are wholly blameless and above reproach. If we have the present reality of being reconciled to God, then we also have the present reality of being presented before God as wholly blameless and above reproach. There will be a complete time in the future when that happens, but right now we've been presented before Christ. We're not dirty, rotten, wicked sinners in the sight of God anymore. For Christians, we are viewed by God as holy, blameless, and above reproach, because of the death of Christ in his flesh. And so that makes sense, hopefully, to you. That's what the Bible describes. So there's reality, present reality now, but there will be a future reality too. But the question is, how do I know that I have that right now? And that's what Paul addresses in the next section, which is the test for reality. In verse 23, he says, you continue stable, steadfast, and not shifting. That's how you know. Verse 23 begins with an if. Does this mean that if you don't continue in the faith, stable and steadfast, not shifting from the hope of the gospel, you will lose reconciliation with God? No. It means you were never reconciled. Some have the desire to make reconciliation with God conditional upon our effective keeping the faith. But what Paul is saying is that if you stay in the faith, that means you're reconciled to God. That is the evidence that you have reconciliation. And that's a perfect reconciliation. The Greek suggests that Paul is at the same time insisting that they continue in the faith, but is confident that they will. The commentator Bruce put it this way: if the Bible teaches the final perseverance of the saints, it also teaches that the saints are those who finally persevere in Christ. Continuance is the test of reality. And so, you want to know if you are reconciled by God, then you have faith. That's just how it is. You don't have faith, you're not reconciled. If you're not reconciled, you won't have faith. Can you have reconciliation with God and then lose that, and he becomes your enemy again? You become an enemy with him? No. Because you're presented wholly blameless and above reproach. That's the context here. It's the same sentence. You can't divorce it from that. He's saying that was based on the death of Christ in the flesh, which was a historical event that occurred, that happened, and the choice to do that, we find out in Ephesians, was happened before the foundation of the world. So to say that you can go back and forth, lose your salvation, gain your salvation, lose it, gain it, lose reconciliation with God, like you're reconciled. And it covered all your sins. So what is there to break reconciliation if he created that reconciliation with his death? Like, are you going to reverse his death for you? It doesn't make any sense. So that's where the problem is not based on it's not based on our faith. It's based on the reconciliation that Christ made in his body of his flesh on the cross, the spilling of his blood. That's the if part. If God did that for you, then you will be reconciled and you will have faith. That's why if you have faith, you can say, oh, okay, then God reconciled me. So you have to continue. Also, one more thing is that you have to continue in the faith. This is not a generic faith, but the faith that has been proclaimed in all creation under heaven. It is the faith that Paul was a minister of. It is the faith in the gospel that they heard. And so it's very specific. This is the one that I preach to you. This is the only gospel. This is the one this is the only way. It's not a generic faith. It's not just believing that their God exists. It's not the God of deism. It's not other gods that have come along afterwards, or the ones that were existing at the time, or the ones that came before. There is the only one way, and it's the gospel that Paul proclaimed, which is the one that was given to him by Jesus Christ himself, and the same one that Peter, James, and John and the other disciples preached too. It's the same gospel. It's the one that they shook hands on, right, at the Council of Jerusalem. Yep, you're right on. This is what it is. And so that is the foundation, but it's that faith, not some other random faith, not, I believe in, some hippie Jesus or squishy Jesus or whatever you want to call the white Jesus in those paintings. No, it's the one that exists right now, the real person of Jesus. That's the faith, that's the gospel that was passed down once for all. So let's wrap up today. And so the conclusion I want to bring to you is, obviously we all want peace, right? We all want peace. We want peace in our lives. We want peace with other people. And ultimately, we desire peace with God, whether we realize it or not. All humans need reconciliation with God. We're all enemies. Humans are alienated and hostile in mind towards God. Humans are. That's their natural state. Our minds want to destroy God. We hate him. We want him dead. That's how we are born. That's how we live until God changes us. But it's through the work of Jesus, and Jesus alone, he reconciled his people to himself. It's not based on what I'm doing. It's not based on my faith that I'm reconciled. My faith is evidence of the work that Jesus did. My faith is evidence of the reconciliation of God, made by God, to God, through God, for God. And I'm just a recipient of that reconciliation. He repaired the relationship. I did nothing to do that. It's all him. So those that continue in the faith and don't shift from the hope of the gospel can be assured that they have peace with God. If you have faith, if you don't shift from that, if you say you have faith now, and that faith stays strong and grows and grows and grows and matures until you die or Jesus returns, then you're reconciled. But if you say, well, yeah, I believe in Jesus, I go to church, Jesus is my best friend, and then later on down the road, you begin to deconstruct your faith, and you're like, you know what, I don't really buy in this Jesus stuff. Well, guess what? You were never reconciled to God. Because if you did, you would have faith. But since you're not persevering, and you don't have faith, you never had reconciliation. You were never brought into that fellowship with God. Because once you're in the fellowship, the Bible never talks about you leaving the fellowship. And so, John doesn't say anything about that. Paul doesn't say anything about that. Peter, not there either. So we can be assured that we have peace with God. And we finish with Matthew Henry. Matthew Henry tells us we must be faithful to death through all trials, that we may receive the crown of life and receive the end of our faith, the salvation of our souls. So Christians continue in the faith. That's the idea. If you have faith all the way to the end, so it's not faith that saves. You're saved through faith, but not because of faith. You're saved because of Christ alone and his work. We got to be careful not to get those confused. A lot of people do, and they begin to believe some erroneous things, like they're controlling their faith, or that God owes them because they believe. God doesn't owe you anything because you believe. Faith is evidence of work that's been done in you, not the credit by which you buy salvation with. So if we got that right, we're good. So what do we need to do? We need to keep on having faith. We need to keep studying. We need to keep growing in our faith. Keep following him and understand this is how the world works. This is what we're in. We're called to be lights in the world. We're called to stand out in the crooked generation and to be God's ambassadors. That's our call. We got to remember we were once alienated like everybody else, but now we've been reconciled to God through Christ. So that's great news. So let me end there for this week. Next time we'll move on to the next part of Colossians and keep going on through this amazing letter.